What's going on, guys? Milo89 here. Welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year, by the way. I know it's been a while since I uploaded, but I thought I'd jump on just to update some interesting things that have been going on in the Astrals that I've been witnessing, in particularly to do with Zeus and Hathor. You know, so tapping into some of the God consciousness that are literally coming into my dream space at the moment, which is really quite interesting. Pretty intense, but quite interesting. I'll tell you about the most recent. This was early morning this morning, and this was like, after waking up from this, I was like, fuck me, I'm gonna go on YouTube and tell people about this because this is just insane. I was conscious in the dream state, looked down at my left arm. I was in a room somewhere, and it was like an old ancient setting of, like, imagine the Vikings, how they used to live, all the fucking thatched roofs and mud outside and, you know, wooden stacks and stuff like that, stables, etc. I looked down my left arm and I was disorientated, and I was kind of like, feel like I was, again, being like poisoned a little bit and just being in a fucking battle. And I had these massive lacerations on my forearm and on my upper arm, on my left side. And it looked like dragon talons. So I'd been like in battle with a dragon or reptilian or something, and they just fucking absolutely lacerated my arm. And you can see it was like, it wasn't bleeding, but it was welted. So it was almost as if like it was healing. Like I was healing pretty rapidly to prevent the bleeding. But what was happening was like, it was spreading this kind of dragon scale fungal mass, which turned my skin grey, which I knew was kind of like making me feel this disorientated kind of feeling. Anyway, as that was happening, I was kind of becoming more conscious. I turned around and there was these huge Nordic beings around, like dressed like Vikings, and they looked really powerful. And I mean, I felt pretty big and powerful as well, but they were taller than me. And this one woman came up to me who literally took the form of my sister, but I knew it wasn't my sister. And this woman kind of projected onto me and started speaking to me, and it was like a cinematic, deep God voice emanating from her. Then which basically she just said, Hathor. And she said, she was basically like pointing to my arm. And I went to turn to look at my arm. And right down the side of the arm was this emblazoned tattoo, which was kind of like it wasn't ink, but it was like sunlight. So it was like engraved down my left arm, and it just said Hathor down this left arm. And I was like, fuck me. You know, this is insane, I can see it. And I was just like, it was like glowing like the Lord of the Rings ring when they fucking put it in the fire and you can see all the letters start turning like flames, basically. That's what it was. And it was like, and she started to say something in a foreign language that I've never heard before, but it was really powerful sound emanating from her voice. And then I was kind of like telepathically said, what does that mean? And she said to me that this is the battle for men. We're in the battle for men, or the battle for man, or something along those lines. And she was like, you're gonna get your battle axe. And I was like, fucking hell, and I followed her, and she came into this room and she gave me this great big fucking axe. And we came back out, and there was all the other Nordic, kind of like demigods, I don't know what the fuck they were, all there prepping for war. And then that's when I woke up, and I was like, Hathor, fucking hell, Hathor, where have I heard that before? And obviously went on Google, looked up Hathor, and it's obviously the goddess in ancient Egypt of love, wisdom, and obviously she was basically the protector and guardian of Ra and Horus. And it's otherwise linked with, in the Greek mythologies, Aphrodite, and in, I think it's the Roman cult, Venus, and obviously in the Nordic is Freya, which is, you know, Venus. And what's really fucking interesting is that I've got Venus's orbit that it takes, or the pattern it makes with the Earth and Venus around the Sun. Like every 8 Earth years, I think this kind of makes this pattern, which is in sequence to the Fibonacci numbers, down this left side. And what's even more interesting is that I've had, ever since like my kind of awakening back in 2017 and the mushroom trips that I've been having, there was a certain initiation that took place after seeing the Anunnaki by the moon, where I've had all these woodland pigeons like basically follow me and pop up and like fucking stay around the house and stalk me, like the woman out of Home Alone, where she's surrounded by fucking pigeons. But they're not just like the ratty feral looking pigeons, they're like the beautiful woodland pigeons with like the, you know, the lovely grey colours and the nice symmetrical patterns. They've been popping up everywhere, and that's linked, if you look on Google, that is linked to Venus, goddess Venus. And I've had like really random synchronicities with Venus and Aphrodite, where my mum's put on my fridge literally a magnet of Aphrodite stood on the shelf. There's like that famous painting of Aphrodite, which is obviously just Venus, and Hathor stood on the shell with 2 suns either side. So this is really getting quite bizarre when you start seeing these synchronicities and having Hathor blazoned down my left arm after it being like ripped apart by this fucking dragon, I presume. I can't recollect it. I just came about like in the aftermath and recognised this. And it was like, we're in the battle of man. Like, this is the final battle of man. You get your battle axe, now this great big fucking battle axe. And it was like war. Like, we're in a fucking war at the moment. And I know we are. Because going back to what I dreamt the night before last, was again, it was another fucking what felt like a salvage mission for another incarnational aspect of myself in another density or dimension, whatever. And I became conscious, and what was interesting, I woke from the bed that I was in, and it was almost like a crackdown again. It was like a house, but it was like a crackdown house, and I was being drugged up. And as I woke up, I saw the Metatronic eye flash before my head. And it was interesting because that day I looked online and I came across this picture of stadiums. And you can see how stadiums are basically shaped to that Metatronic eye. They all see an eye of Metatron. The Metatron is otherwise a fallen entity who has set up shop in like the 11.5 dimension. If you listen to Ashiana Dean's work, this has otherwise been a part of like the wars that have been happening ever since 250 billion years ago, with the fucking wars in the cosmos between the Lyran star systems and the Elohim and the Seraphim, Seraphim, and all these fallen races that obviously created like huge fucking distortions in this cosmos and the black hole systems, which is, you know, they've been warring ever since. But this is one of the entities that's obviously responsible and overseeing this kind of false matrix plug-in and these phantom matrices that these fucking phantom, fallen, intrusive ETs and interdimensional entities are kind of feeding off our organic natural system. So this is what they've been doing to our astral bodies, and this is obviously where they operate and keep us kind of dumbed down here. But as you start picking up your frequencies and cleaning up your body and activating your DNA, you start anchoring in more of your, you know, oversoul and soul identity and astral self, so you can bridge that gap. So your higher self can bridge you back into the astrals, and which is what's obviously been happening to me in the last few years. So you can have these experiences, which isn't pleasant, to be honest, because when you wake up in these situations, this is the 4th time now where I've been in a situation where I've actually salvaged an aspect of myself and having to recognize the fucking horror of what the fuck they've been doing to me, and getting myself, removing myself in that body away as far as I fucking can. So I remember waking up, this Metatronic eye came, and as I tried to speak to get it to fuck off, my whole voice turned into like this really deep, mechanical, matrix-like voice as well, which distorted everything, and it kind of like stunned me a little bit, but I managed to get it out of the way because it was kind of like there trying to pin me to the bed. And when I got out of the way, I mentioned again Jesus Christ's name again. I don't know whether it helped, but it felt like it didn't really have much power in the place I was in, because there was fucking wards all over the wall, black magic, dark magic wards all over the wall, putting me under a spell. So I remember coming to, and like these beings who are in the house obviously were kind of shocked and like, fucking hell again, like we didn't expect him to, you know, wake up, so he's been drugged. I remember looking at my body, had my top off, I had all these fucking needle marks all around my chest, and this time down my right arm, I had all these scratch marks and bite marks, like human bite marks and fang marks and stuff like this. So they've been like feeding off me and injecting me through the chest, and I had like fucking hundreds of little fucking red dots all over me. And again, I felt drugged, I felt poisoned, I felt like fucking like the worst hangover ever. And I remember getting up and I remember seeing one of these entities, and she was there, and she was just like in normal lady dress, lady form. But I knew it was like a shapeshifter. And I remember trying to look around, grabbing something. I remember saying, Jesus Christ, like, get the fuck out of me, get the fuck out of my face. In the name of Jesus Christ, like, you know, banish you, whatever. She was kind of just rolling her eyes in the back of her head. She was saying like, that's not going to work here. And I remember looking around, and there was like a Holy Bible there, which is kind of like similar to the Holy Bible that I've got in my room. But there was like, again, words written on the cover, the front cover of it. And I can see that I was trying to use that and put it in front of her face. And she was just kind of, again, rolling her eyes, because it had no power based on like the hieroglyphs and shit that are written on the front cover, which is quite bizarre. Anyway, I remember walking out into the corridor, and this being came in, and she was literally, again, looked very similar to my mother, but she was just distorted, and you could tell it was like an evil version. You can imagine like a grey trying to shapeshift into one of your family members, but you can see like the fucking horrific distortions, like it's almost like a wax figure, you know, it's like really fake. You can tell it's really fake and like creepy as fuck. And I remember she like walked through the door and just kind of stood and looked at me and looked at the other woman, and they were kind of like, what, you know, what the fuck is he doing awake? It was like a shock. And I remember just getting the fuck out of there, like walking down towards the back of the house, and ended up coming back out. And what was interesting, it was so fucking busy where I was in this like housing estate. There was fucking people everywhere. But as soon as I got out, it was as if like everyone was trying to fucking put their arm around me and get me to drink certain things, like potions, in order to put me under. I remember some guy gave me something because I was like still fucked. You know, if you ever gone on the like date rape or something, I can imagine that's what it would be like. And this guy like handed me a drink. He was like, drink up, drink up. And so I remember like taking a little sip, and I just kind of suddenly realised like, no, what are you doing? You don't want to fucking. They're trying to put you back under. You know, seduce you again, so they can fucking put you back in that room where they're just basically feasting off you like a fucking prostitute, basically. You know, what's that movie Taken? We see those girls and they just put on drip like heroin, and these guys come in and fucking do what the fuck they want to them. And that's what it felt like they were doing to me. And I had all the scars and the fucking needle marks to, you know, to prove that. So I remember like going away, moving away, and all these entities, you can see them, they were like humans, but a lot of them were kind of exaggerated features. So it's almost like someone out of the metaverse. If you imagine like creating a digital version of yourself, you can exaggerate certain features like boobs and fucking muscles and shit like this, and the faces and just all this wacky kind of dress. And I knew I was in this like fucking stink pot of a Astral in the lower 4D where all this demonic shit and activity goes on. So I managed to, you know, get away. And again, it was kind of like that, you fuckers, like you've been doing this to me. I remember like throwing shit at them as I left, and they couldn't really control me. They had to try and get me to, you know, either drink this or come with them to do this. Again, it's like that consent. And this is, like I said, the fourth time now where I've managed to like pull back other multidimensional aspects of myself out of those current situations, which isn't pleasant, because you wake up from that, carrying that kind of energy of what's being done to you and that memory. And it is literally like you have been fucking kidnapped and raped, and fucking energy has been siphoned. But this is all part of the awakening. This is all part of facing the ugly horrors and the truths of what has been going on. If you want to claim back your soul and your other identities, so you can, you know, merge back with your soul identity and your oversoul and transcend into like the fifth dimension and stuff like this up in Tara, then you're going to have to start doing this kind of work and put on a brave face and fucking go in and claim back what is rightfully yours, you know, because they can't do anything without your consent. And I realised this, and a lot of them have been violating God's law, which is why I believe there is going to be a lot of divine intervention happening, especially me coming into contact with some of these gods myself up in the God worlds. They don't really concern themselves much with, you know, what's happening down here in these holographic matrices, but I think given when push comes to shove, I think they will come down and intervene if, you know, they have got a vested interest maybe in certain bloodlines or, you know, races that they might have created that they want to try and protect, and human race is definitely one of them. Which brings me on to another dream that I had with Zeus. Again, this is quite recent, last week. This is all within like the last few weeks. I remember dreaming, I was in like this castle, fully conscious, and again I was with my mother. So my mother was there. We're in this like massive conservatory bit, so it was like the glass roof and you can see up into the sky quite far. And what happened was these four great big light beings came over, really high in the sky, looking down on us, and then all of a sudden it was hurling like lightning bolts all around this conservatory, and there's like a huge thunderstorm. You can hear like the thunder like shaking the glass of the conservatory, and my mum was shitting herself. And I remember just saying to her like, no, just calm down, this is fine. It's just, you know, it's all part of the process, it's all good. It's just, you know, the gods doing their thing, whatever. And anyway, as that happens, these four beings like just looking down at me like pure light beings. Couldn't see their facial features, but they were like a silhouette of a man looking down. And as that happened, I got like a telepathic message saying the seal's been opened. Like the seal's been opened, and this is from Zeus. I was getting that this is coming from Zeus, obviously the lightning bolts and stuff. And as that happened, the four beings disappeared and the kind of clouds dispersed, and there was like a little speck, and you can see it coming. As it came closer, it got bigger and bigger, and it's this great big fucking black dragon. And I was thinking, oh shit. So it was coming for me, and I knew it was coming for me. But what was interesting, this castle I was in was otherwise like, there was a room where there was like a dragon's den. Imagine you have you got a pet dog and you got your own little dog house for it to go and sleep in. Well, this castle had like a huge, great big fucking room for the dragon, and you can see like all the wallpaper and stuff were otherwise pictures and paintings of dragons and stuff, and like all this symbology. And I remember like going back down into that room, and this dragon came in to the room, and it was kind of like, I knew I didn't have to kill it, but it was kind of like, this situation I'm in is very bizarre, but it was coming after me. And I remember that there was all these passageways and doorways where I could only fit through and the dragon couldn't. so I can get away into these other rooms, but the dragon would know where to go to kind of try and cut me off. So it was like this fucking, I was like a mouse in a maze being chased by a cat, and I was having to like fucking worm my way through all these little passageways and doorways in order to kind of evade this dragon. But it didn't feel like I had to kill it or anything. It was just otherwise maybe getting to try and tame it and train it. But then I woke up and I was just thinking, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is so bizarre. But like, you know, seeing Zeus and these 4 beings, which is obviously, and the seal, I had a message of like the seal being opened, which is quite interesting. But this is just what's happening, you know, the frequencies are picking up, and I chat to a lot of other people and they're saying like, you know, their experience in the astrals is getting really weird at the moment. But I guess this is the path. Like, if you're on the path, you're going to be confronted with some kind of, you know, very challenging situations and pretty intense dreams and astral, you know, kind of states where your higher self in your oversoul will be guiding you and putting you in these situations consciously in order for you to address certain problems to get you out of it, so you can start, you know, remanifesting and reintegrating all your other selves, so you can literally ascend out of this matrix. Because I believe Earth is going to fall, given what I've learned off of Ashliana Dean's work, and you know, it's important that we get ready to depart this plane either through death, or if you've done the work and activated your 50 and Astral, you can actually walk through one of these stargates and actually demanifest and remanifest back into a higher octave, which is concordant with the 5th dimension, up in density 2. So there's a whole science behind ascension, which has otherwise been hidden from us, which was taught in the mystery schools, which is what Jesus Christ taught. And this woman, Ashliana Dean, is otherwise like a modern day prophet, and I've been working through her material, so I highly recommend anyone to, you know, watch and listen to her stuff. I've uploaded the 3 videos and the interview she did with Project Camelot, which is a really good introduction as to, you know, what the fuck has been going on, and you know what's basically going to come in the next few hundred years, as this solar activation cycle really kicks in, which we're right in the middle of, which is why all this shit is going on. And it otherwise gives even more validation and obviously perspective as to what they're doing with the old vaccines, the jabberoos, because they're going in and trying to fuck with people's DNA so they can't get activated, so they can shut them off from getting out of here and ascending, and suck them into a phantom matrix where they can obviously, you know, feed off them for longer. So it's pretty fucking important to, you know, put in the spiritual work around this time and to prepare yourself for the journey, which no one ever fucking really talks about because they've been so brainwashed in consumerism, which is that journey after death, you know, confronting that aspect of the unknown, which I now firmly embrace, because I know death is just an illusion down here, and this is otherwise unnatural based on the distortion with what these fuckers have done, with the Metatronic mathematics of, you know, the physics that they've run down here, and all the energy traps and the grid work and all this shit with the moon, the Saturn, wormholes and the plugins, in order to, you know, basically siphon energy away from us, because we were created initially as 12 dimensional beings who were immortal. So we could demanifest and remanifest wherever we wished within this holographic matrix up to the 12th dimension, and there's 15 in total. And so, you know, we're right at the fucking arse end of, as a result of what's happened to us, and we're starting, for those who are doing the work, to pull ourselves back into who we truly were made to be. You know, as cosmic doctors, the Terranusian race, 550 million years ago. So it's so important to do the work and, you know, start facing these horrors, and don't fear. You know, just see it as experience at the end of the day when you have these like mad fucking dreams, because sometimes it can be horrific. Like, it, you know, it takes a couple of days sometimes for me to process what's just happened. But a dream like the one with Hathor is otherwise really cool, and it syncs up. It syncs up, and you'll start seeing all the synchronicities in your life when you do a little bit of research, like the woodland pigeons linked to Venus. Venus is otherwise Hathor in the Egyptian mythologies. All these gods and energies of consciousness, they have many different names during different periods of time and histories and cultures, but they're all referring to the same conscious entity and energy that we can inhabit, work with. I wouldn't say channel, but we can invite into our lives to help push us along and give us answers. And Hathor is otherwise the goddess of love. It was interesting, that night I was working on meditating and opening up my heart chakra, which is linked with love, and I was showing my appreciation and love of everything in this universe and all the creation, and I was very grateful for, you know, my existence and stuff like this, and the information I've come across, the experiences I've had, And what do you know, I kind of come into Hathor, which is the goddess of love, but she's, she's a very vengeful goddess, and she protects Ra and Horus, which is quite interesting because I've had a lot of symbology with the eagle and the hawk. At times when I've been put under mad psychic attacks, I've had hawks pop up outside my house, and you'd walk out the door and a hawk would be flying past you, and you just you catch the eyeball of it, like just a split second between the houses, and it's just like bang, it's like fucking hell. And you can freeze time, and it feels like you freeze time, and it's just there, bang. It's kind of let me know, like, these gods and goddesses do exist. I believe it without a shadow of a doubt. These gods and goddesses do exist, and so you can work with them and ask them for help, protection, wisdom, messages. And they're just consciousness at the end of the day. They're consciousness and energies that represent certain qualities of energy that we can tap into and embody ourselves. So yeah, I thought I'll update you guys. Don't want this video to be too long, but there's a lot going on. 2022 is a big year. I'm very hopeful for those who are on the path. There's going to be a lot of good things to come. Just got to keep holding ground, anchoring that Christic energy. And I'll probably do another few videos actually just summarising what I've learned with Ashyan Dean's work, because it makes complete sense with the whole grid work, the Stargate system down here, the template pillars, which otherwise the Templar, the Knights Templar, and all these quests and dominions that have been happening on Earth are a direct result of where all these Stargates are positioned in order to control the larger Stargate Templar system within this 15th dimensional holographic universe. And she goes into the Keylontics, the morphogenetic fields, how basically matter is materialized through all these Keylons and Partakai, Partake, Partacum, light particles, as it were, to form matter. So there is a science behind all this, and you can come to understand it if you study it. It's kind of like, I know a lot of people at the moment having all these experiences, and they're still kind of a bit clueless as to what the fuck is happening and what system they're a part of. Well, if you study Ashyan Dean's work, this is otherwise going to give you great context and perspective and put yourself on the map as to what the fuck you're experiencing, what you're seeing, and it'll explain it perfectly, because it's all within a model that is literally designed by the source creator in order for us to create these arenas for consciousness, pure energy consciousness, to manifest and take on forms in the material realm, or the etheric realms, or liquid realms. So as you go up, you basically shed the densities and have these experiences. And obviously once you go past the 15th dimensional matrix, you're not incarnated into a body. You're void of form, and you're just pure thought or consciousness at that level. And this is the God worlds, and this is where they can permeate, almost look in like a one-way looking glass into these 15 dimensional matrices, and that's where they can get involved and start seeding or creating these synchronicities for you. If it isn't your higher self, your oversoul doing it for you. But they'll let you know, like obviously through obvious messages like Hathor fucking tattooed and blazoned on your arm. But yeah, really quite interesting. There's obviously a lot of shit going down, a lot of shit going on. There seems to be a huge battle being fought at the moment. I haven't witnessed being in this battle, but I've obviously seen the aftermath of what's been going on, and been told through messages like that. So yeah, let us know if you're experiencing the same. If anyone has come into contact with Hathor in the Astrals, and or Zeus for that matter, and dragons. I'm not really hearing anyone fucking coming on and talking about these experiences. Whether I'm just it's my destiny, I've got no idea. But it'd be cool to see if there's anyone else out there who's experiencing this kind of stuff too, because it's pretty mad, but at the same time pretty cool, to be fair. Because we're living in the biggest fucking sci-fi fantasy reality system ever with what's going on, and everyone's been so fucking dumbed down that not even realising this. So when it starts permeating into your consciousness and your dream state, and you become aware of the gods are real, these entities are real, this holographic matrix is real, matter is an illusion, but it's otherwise an arena from which we can play and expand our consciousness and have these experiences. The God worlds are real, source is real, death is an illusion, again, this is otherwise a trick, and this is what they've done with the genetic manipulation, all this. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling, so I'll cut it off here. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.